In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at its rising and have come to pay him homage." And when King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet, and you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had happened. And then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. And when they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. And then, opening their treasure chest, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. Good morning. It's 2021. Thanks be to God. Now, it may be a new year, but we're still stuck with some of the residual effects of our last passage around the sun. I know I will be spending the next several months overcoming things left over from the last year. Things we do are things that we need to undo ourselves. We have to undo it under our own power and might. That's how the world works. Now today we look at the story of the Magi, wise sages from the east, and how they trekked all the way to ancient Palestine, and they would need to walk all the way back. Getting to your destination is only half the journey. We may be done with 2020, but it will take us many a season to overcome the after effects of this year. But this leads me to question how the wise men took what transpired. How did they take what took place? They visited royalty in a palace, but what they found that they were looking for something that it was in a humble abode. They followed a sign in the heavens to get them there, but then they trusted in the still small voice of the divine from their dreams to take them home by another road. The light by which they were illuminated did not come from themselves. They weren't the bulbs. They were the reflectors. They did not find enlightenment. But when they found the child, for the light did not come from within themselves. What they did find was something else. For lack of a better word, let us call it enbrightenment, not enlightenment. For the light that they found and took home with them came from outside. And friends, that's my prayer for all of us as we go into this coming year. Enbrightenment, not enlightenment. I want us to be like the wise men who go home differently than the way they came. I want us to go home reflecting the light of the one we have found to be the Lord. I want us to reflect with bright, polished mirrors for His and for our sake. One thing that seemed to dip the more advanced we become academically is that childlike wonder that attracted us in the first place. The wise men probably headed west in an academic exercise. Could it be that we actually can read the stars and interpret their meaning? Could it be that the ancient stories and the handiwork of the gods could be in coordination? And from their mental acuity, they got within 10 miles of their target, which is pretty darn close, coming from so far away. And they, like most all the people, assumed that the rich and powerful were what they were seeking. And that is where they started with Herod in his throne room. But when they were given something else, they could have seen it as inferior, or they could have seen it as miraculous. When God breaks through, I don't care what your station is, it's always a surprise. And mixed in with that surprise, I trust, you will also find delight. Remember when they wanted to bring the children to Jesus and the disciples thought they knew better? and they tried to keep the children away. But Jesus saw what was happening, and he says, "Let the little children come to me, and do not stop them, for it is to such as these that the kingdom of heaven belongs." And then he laid his hands on them in blessing. I think that the kingdom of heaven belongs to children because they can still see with unjaded eyes. They can look at the night sky and see the constellations. They can look at the moon and wonder if it really is cheese. They don't get caught up in the dry, yeastless factuality of a world where God's fingerprints are not all over everything. That wonder, that awe is what I long for, and I pray that I've not educated it out of myself. I want to see that 2 apples plus 2 apples is 4 apples, yes. But I also want to see, without losing the delight, that those 4 apples would make a really good pie. I'm not asking us to dumb things down, but rather for us to brighten things up through wonder and hope. I'm about to read a long quote here. In his book, The Ragamuffin Gospel, Brennan Manning shares this story of the Rabbi Joshua Abraham Heschel. You see, several years before his death, a remarkable rabbi, Abraham Joshua Heschel, suffered a near-fatal heart attack. His closest male friend was at his bedside. Heschel was so weak he was only able to whisper, "Sam," he said, "I feel only gratitude for my life. For every moment I've lived, I'm ready to go. I've seen so many miracles during my lifetime." The old rabbi was exhausted by his effort to speak, and after a long pause he said, "Never once in my life did I ask God for success or wisdom or power or fame. I asked for wonder, and God gave it to me." I asked for wonder, and God gave it to me. A Philistine will stand before a Claude Monet painting and pick his nose. A person filled with wonder will stand there fighting back the tears. The spirituality of wonder knows that the world is charged with grace, that while sin and war, disease and death are terribly real, God's loving presence and power in our midst is even more real. In the grasp of wonder, I am surprised, I am enraptured. It's Moses before the burning bush, afraid to look at God. It's Stephen about to be stoned. I can see the Son of Man standing at the right hand of God. It's Michelangelo striking his sculptured Moses and commanding him, "Speak!" It's Ignatius of Loyola in ecstasy as he eyes the sky at night. Teresa of Avila ravishing by a rose. It's doubting Thomas discovering his God in the wounds of Jesus. And it's Mother Teresa spying the face of Christ in the tortured poor. It's America thrilling to the footsteps on the moon and a child casting his kite into the wind. It's a mother looking with love at a newborn infant. It's the wonder of a first kiss. Let us ask God for the gift he gave to an unforgettable rabbi, Joshua Abraham Heschel. A prayer of Brennan Manning. Dear Lord, grant me the grace of wonder, surprise me, amaze me, awe me in every crevice of your universe. Delight me to see how your Christ plays in 10,000 places, lovely in limbs and lovely in eyes, not his, to the Father through the features of men's faces. Each day enrapture me with your marvelous things without number. I do not ask to see the reason of it all. I only ask to share the wonder of it all. Friends, that's the role of faith, and Jesus taught his followers as much. Without childlike innocence, without childlike wonder, we still hear the voice of God instructing us in our dreams, leading us home in a better way. In that childlike wonder, we can move boldly and hopefully into 2021, despite what 2020 delivered. In childlike wonder, we can be enlightened by God and still be truly ourselves, our best selves. And what better idea can we hold to this Epiphany as we begin our new year? I'm standing in our newly redone bathrooms, which are now significantly brighter. And the light is bright, but the mirrors aren't up yet. And the mirror expands it and shines it into every corner of the room. Friends, that's our job. We are the mirrors in this world. We share the light we have found. That is Epiphany. Just like the wise men and all the others we will encounter on our Epiphany journey. I love you, dear friends, and I thank you for your faithfulness. Do not be jaded. Be filled with hope. What better message to the world can we give in these days? Amen.